This is Elden Ring. We're here on Xbox Series X taking a look at this open world take on the Dark Souls-esque genre. It basically is Dark Souls, but in an open world environment. So be sure to like the video, subscribing's great as well, and let's dive into what this experience has to offer. So when it comes to the, well, performance and or the resolution options, we have two choices. One that is prefer quality and one that is prefer performance. So the performance option is on by default. You get a choice actually when you go to start the game. And I think in the future, whether that's through updates or a more powerful console down the road, we're actually going to have a really insanely smooth running experience. But for now, it's a little bit hit or miss. So this is the performance mode. Both of these are targeting a native 4K resolution. Performance mode, it's a little bit more dynamic, so it's like 1800p or something like that targeting. Then there's the prioritized quality, which is a native 4K. It just kind of chugs along a little bit more when it comes to the performance of the game. You know, that 60 FPS is a lot less stable, but there is a significant increase in the visual fidelity of the game. I would suggest kind of, trying both of them, but for me personally, I would say go with the prioritized frame rate. The frame rate's a lot more stable, but it's not necessarily perfect, which I thought was quite interesting. So when I played this game regularly before recording it, I was doing, I have game mode on my TV, VRR and stuff like that, and it actually provided what felt like a perfectly smooth experience the entire time through. But when I went to record, and I was exploring the world and taking a look at things, recording in a specific way that I am for this video, I started to notice there's actually quite a lot of performance dips. It's not perfectly smooth. It's not necessarily bad, but it's not what I would like. So hopefully you have a game mode that you can enjoy, because that just makes sure that it's running a lot smoother. So one thing I like to showcase is like the clouds here. And you can just notice, like, you go to quality, they slow down a bit. You go to prioritize frame rates and they speed up a bit, at least from what I've noticed, kind of comparing them back and forth. Just something I thought I'd highlight. So we're going to be talking about the game, showing off a variety of different locations, and trying to keep things relatively spoiler free, so I hope you enjoy this experience. There is HDR support, and it is a wondrous open world experience that you could have countless hours playing with lots of different surprises, unique challenges, and it really is quite enticing. And sometimes you will die. That's just part of the game. So we're going to show off a bit of the loading here because we've perished, and then we'll also then fast travel somewhere else so that we can show off that loading aspect of the game as well, just so you can see how that aspect is running. So I'm, not great at, well, Dark Souls-esque experiences. It's not really something that I do well in. But this is strangely enticing for me. I quite like this experience. It's big, it's massive, and while you may think that the map that I am showing here is only what I visited, you can go to other places. I just haven't actually come across the specific map that will reveal. There's like these pillars that you find, and they give you a map, and that will reveal said area. And there's also like these map waypoint type things that you can gather, and those will give you little other hidden waypoints and stuff along the way. Usually you can purchase them in-game from like merchants and whatnot. So, like I was saying, this is not necessarily an experience that I would be really the best at. If you're familiar with me, I'm not great at Dark Souls-esque games. I don't necessarily have the best of times with them. Now, when I look at this game, I actually have quite a bit of fun with it. At the same time, I do wish that there was a bit more accessibility to it. Maybe a bit of an easy mode or something like that would be nice. That being said, I think it is a lot more of an easier experience than other Dark Souls titles in the past and other similar, experiences, because this one has so many different ways to tackle scenarios. You can see I've got my mystical wolves there. I'm on horseback. I've got, well, I guess it's a spectral steed. But there's just a lot of different ways, like range, there's magic. There's so many different class options that you can use in order to change up your experience and make it so that the game is more accessible to you. And I'm trying not to spoil any boss things. Like, honestly, this is just like a generic kind of character you literally see at the beginning of the game. If you're not, kind of familiar with this setup, you literally start in that cave area that we kind of started at right over there, and this is like the first thing you come across, so there shouldn't be anything spoilerish here for you. So yeah, it's just kind of an experience that I think offers a lot of ways to play. It is something where I sat there, and I was grinding through it a lot. I have a good spot, and then I was fighting bosses, and then I was kind of being like, okay, I beat them now because I've grinded my level. So that is something that you might find as present is, hey, you actually have to grind to be able to take out scenarios in order to, successfully survive and battle things. I don't really actually want to even fight this thing. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of the game, is leveling up and being able to take on challenges that were too hardcore prior. I mean, I could sit there and probably beat this thing if I was playing properly and doing my, dodges and whatnot, but I'm not really that into fighting this thing. I more or less want to focus on the review. So yeah, there are many unique scenarios you can have and many beautiful places you can visit along the way. Like, this game really is quite visually stunning in many ways. Like, this is a bit of a regular area. This is where you start, this is the Lime, but there's like these really grotesque places, these intense dungeons with these optional bosses, these like really messed up places that you can visit along the way. And it's kind of like a Breath of the Wild type scenario. So you can see something like that and you can go there. So that's where I've got this blue dot down all the way over here. And it's literally from here I can see that. And I can just ride there. Or I can walk there. And you can easily get to that point. We'll show off, I think, some other scenarios a little bit later on where I could be like, you can head all the way over there, or you can head all the way over there. It really is quite enticing from that perspective of, hey, there's all these different places you can go and all these different things you can see. And the journey along the way is quite interesting. But again, you're probably noticing that frame rate isn't really super smooth, and which is funny because, like I said, I was sitting there playing like 10 plus hours with my game mode on, and it was just like perfectly smooth running. And then I go to record like this, and I'm like, oh wow, no, there's definitely some performance hiccups. And I think that's a bit of a shame because this is definitely a Game of the Year candidate in terms of the quality of the experience. There's day-night cycles. There's all kinds of crazy stuff going on in this game. It really is just absolutely wild and stunning in terms of what it provides. It's something that is, challenging but also enchanting because there's so many secrets. I helped a pot that was stuck in the ground. There's this like royalty lady that can't see that I think I keep running into. And there's just so many different things. We were given a review guide, and it kind of went over and labeled all of these different places that you can visit. And I tried my best to kind of explore. Like, I spent hours just roaming around on horse, visiting places, trying to fight different bosses. There's one where you're like rotting out due to like the area you've been fighting through, and then there's a big shadow monster that like cuts you up, and there's like this monastery you can go into, but out front of the monasteries there's this giant thing with like a scythe you have to you kind of move by. It's just really large scale, expansive, and really unique to kind of visit. And it's filled to the brim with different kinds of monstrous wildlife that is all trying to kill you. Stuff isn't friendly. There are some friendly faces and some markets and some things you can go to, but the idea of the game is to level and improve your character as you explore many unique locations, coming in and out of combat, and trying to survive until you go and you fight another boss. And then you go to like these little spots, like these campfires, and that's where you can improve your character and level up. I've tried my best to get as many hours in as I could so that I could talk about this to the best of my ability to, kind of go over as many unique locations and spots. We are trying to keep things spoiler-free though, so we're not going to be visiting, some like endgame type things or crazy bosses here or there. But we're mostly focusing on, hey, this is what kind of the game looks like, this is how it plays, these are some of the places you can visit. And I think that's a good showcase of what this is, because it really is just absolutely massive. This game is just big. Like, Dark Souls to me is very linear in its design. You can go kind of, into different places, but this game is like you start in one spot and you can go anywhere. You can go fight a boss right away, You can go venture out into the middle of nowhere and do whatever you want. There's actually a funny chest that will spawn you, or well, like launch you, fast travel you into a spot that's super dangerous right off the bat, and you're like, whoa, it's the one in the swamp. But yeah, like I was saying, Breath of the Wild, like, we started the game over there. So we are over here now, but we were over here, and you could see that kind of island way in the back, but this is like literally where we were. Now we're all the way over here, like way south, and you can see that spot from here, which is just kind of amazing, that sense of scale. Like seriously, like just look at how big of a gap that is between these two spots. It's quite amazing. And then you can look over there, and there's like this castle you can kind of make out on the other side of that island, where the big tree is. And you can go all the way over there and fight like a boss thing, and it's, different biomes. Some are a little bit more beach-like. There's different castles you go through. There's different monsters you're facing. There's different challenges, different threats. You can use stealth to your approach, or you can go in swords blazing. You could become more confident, or perhaps be a little bit more stealthy and take your time. The choices are up to you and how you approach scenarios. And I think that's quite exciting. I can't believe I actually didn't discover this one. But yeah, these fires are going to be the place where you level, you improve your character, and you be able to take on new challenges. You can also pass the day, you can improve your flasks, sort your flasks between your magicka and your regular health. There's different ashes of war to improve your weapons. You can upgrade your weapons if you go to anvils. You can level up. You can see I'm a 47, so you collect these runes. If you die, the runes are kind of left where you died, and you have to go grab them. If you die again before that, they're gone. That's just how it works. And you improve things such as your health, your level. There's like a champions place where you can go and meet stuff. And there's also like a multiplayer component to this game too, if you weren't familiar with that. So you can be kind of invaded. I think there are options for adjusting that too if you don't want to kind of deal with that thing, but it's something that's within the game. There's also like some cooperative elements where you can have a couple people hop in and stuff, and I think that's kind of neat. You're also building your own kind of character and facing off against many, many challenges along the way. And like I said, there is quite a bit of a grind to this. Like, I sort of found a really sweet spot here for like power leveling. And it's just like that sometimes is your approach. And like I said, the game isn't for everyone. Like, this is not something that I can easily recommend to every player. If you are a fan of Dark Souls, you will love this sense of freedom. You will love this sense of discovery and intrigue and challenge. But if you're someone that's like in the past struggled with the Dark Souls games, I don't think that this one is necessarily an easier entry point. As I was saying, it's a little bit more friendly in the sense that I think there's more options for how you approach scenarios that might allow new players to come in and play it. But at the same time, a lot of this wasn't necessarily like fun, if that makes sense. Like, it was grinding and then being able to be strong enough to take on a scenario. And I know some people really get a great sense of like accomplishment from like taking on a boss. But I just recall, this one really hardcore early boss just beating down on me, like, I think it was for an hour, couple hours, or hour and a bit or whatever. And I kept like, I would just go and I'd grind more so that I could get higher enough, like a higher level. And then I'd come back and I would repeat. This is also a good stress test for performance because there's so many troll type things in one area, which is kind of funny. But yeah, it's just a really neat experience from that perspective. Like, if this is something where you love the Dark Souls games, you go around and you get the lore. That's another thing, is I really wish there were more cinematic moments. Like, there's like one cutscene I think at the beginning or something, and that's basically it. I wish they had more of a focus on direct story instead of story told through, because there's a lot of like reading items and stuff, and I'd like more of a direct story. And there's also like this lady that you can kind of choose to have along your path, like with you. And I call her the ASMRist because she whispers everything to you. But, it's just like, I wish there was just a bit more story going on, a bit more of a focus on that. Because I think that aspect is kind of important to mention. But yeah, it's kind of like the element of, hey, do you find it rewarding for sitting here and working to battle bosses? Do you like that challenge? If so, this is probably something you'll have a lot of fun with. You'll find it really intriguing. Like I said, it's like kind of a peak perfect Dark Souls experience just in terms of being an open world take on that. And I love the many messed up, grotesque monsters, the crazy bosses, the sense of scale. Like, it's a very peaceful and lovely world, despite it being insanely messed up. Like, I love that sense of freedom and discovery and being like, what is this? Or this is creepy, or this is unsettling, or oh wow, I just came across a boss that I was not prepared to deal with, and having to like run away, or every creature almost being like a threat to you. That is really quite enticing to some players. I love this sense of scope to it, you know, this huge world that you get to visit that really is, you know, quite majestic. I do wish it was performing a little bit better, though. Like I said, I played like, you know, 10 plus hours with that, you know, game mode, and it was just perfect to me. And then you get on here to record with the game mode off, and you're like, ooh, I don't know. But, you know, I think kind of, again, going with the prioritizing the frame rate, I think that's kind of the way to go. You know, like, quality mode does look nicer, but that, to me, looks like it's something for maybe a generation down the road or something like that, or a more powerful console could handle. I do hope they do clean things up a little bit more, though, when it comes to that performance, because, you know, I do want a smooth experience for people. I don't think that's too much to ask for. But if you're able to easily look past that, like, performance element, I think you'll love this game. I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. You know, assuming you are, like, that Dark Souls fan, you're gonna sit here and you're gonna be like, wow, there is, like, limitless things to do. You can spend tens of hours, like, exploring, battling, facing off. And you could alternatively, you know, grind your level, or you could battle different bosses or head somewhere else. You don't have to, like, you're never blocked from doing anything. And on the flip side of that, you're never really told to do anything. It's like a really double-edged sword, because you're not really given any guidance. If you're coming from other Dark Souls games, you'll probably be like, okay, you know, I get what you're talking about. That's fine, that's just how it is. If you are a player that's a little less familiar with it, you're going to be like, okay, what am I doing? Where am I going? But that's also just the freedom of being like, in, you know, if you're a real-world explorer just walking around, it's like, okay, see what you want to see. Go where you want to go, and take in the world in different ways. It's neat in that regard, because it's kind of like, okay, I want to fight this boss. How do I do it? I can't. He keeps beating me. I'll go somewhere else, or maybe I'll find something, and maybe this time I'll be able... How am I still discovering grace points here? Seriously, I've been like all through these like areas, and I'm still coming across some that I didn't grab earlier, which is kind of funny. But yeah, there's so many little surprises and so many little secrets for you to find. And it's just got this really neat sense of like visual architecture, this lost world, this lost messed up society. And there's just so much for you to do, so many enemies for you to kill, things for you to master. There's crafting, there's improvements on weapons and tools. There's monstrous bosses, there's like smaller bosses that will totally surprise you. There are moments that are like a little bit funny, moments that are a little bit more action-packed, and I think you'll just really find this to be kind of a delightfully enchanting experience, because you do get that sense of like wow and wonder. Like, you could just see these like huge locations off into the distance, and you can visit them and battle in them, and it can be friendly but not really inviting ever. So it's really like a hard mix of a review for me, because I sit here and I'm like, wow, this is actually really, really cool. If you're a fan of games like this, you are going to get so much value out of what this has to offer. But at the same time, if you're coming in hoping that this will be something a little bit easier going, you know, that's not really what this is going to be. So that's something, you know, to kind of keep in mind gameplay-wise, that it's not the easiest going of things. There is that challenge to it. It will definitely test your mettle and your ability to be able to handle scenarios. And whether or not you find that rewarding is, of course, going to change depending on the individual playing the game, right? That's the biggest thing, is like, what kind of game do you like? If this sounds like something that's enticing for you, you will find yourself lost in this. You will find yourself battling for hours, seeing like crazy things, finding new ways to challenge and battle old threats. And that could be really exciting for some players. That can be really, really magical. It depends, again, on the type of person you are and what you're going to get out of this experience. But that has been a showcase of Elden Ring on the Series X. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, liking the video again is great, and subscribing is great as well. And I hope this was something that really did showcase the world while not spoil anything for you.